And I
Yeah.
got so emotional. I cried a little bit in the car before going back home, and then I texted a couple friends. I was like, "This is not gonna make any sense right now, but like I heard this song, and we'll talk about it later."
Hi, welcome to the guest list with Patrick Hicks. Today, my guest is Rod Kim, songwriter, content creator. Rod, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor to be on your show. I love the play on words for the name of the show.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I'm not used to seeing you in the full
Oh,
light.
right.
If people are used to your TikToks, you're usually laying down in the dark
Yeah,
saying,
actually, it's
anybody
on. You can
remember
barely
that?
see it. This couch back here, and
Ah, that's
uh, the what people see in the background is what's over here. So this is the computer and stuff in the background.
so funny. And it's funny you have this great camera and this nice office setup and you record completely in the dark. And that's
Yeah,
real.
so it's funny. Like, I have a lot. I've been in social media a long time, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
YouTube and stuff a long time, and so I know a lot of friends and stuff that do this all the time, and they're always like, we could get you a better camera and mics. I was like, my guys, like, that's not a problem. It's just
I
that
mean,
that thing hit because
yep.
I had back pain one night and started rambling on TikTok.
I mean, that's the beauty of TikTok is people value authenticity over anything. So it really does not matter what kind of setup you have. I got Big Rook talking into my phone on a plain brown couch. So
Yeah, I know. I like, yeah, you have an
never
iconic
know.
couch too.
I know I was sad when I moved apartments, I got rid of that couch and it felt like, man, this is so part of my brand. But
Right. Now, you have to like take a photo or something like green screen it behind you now or
I know,
something.
I know. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to be building a playlist of your life. So we're going to start going all the way back to childhood. You live in LA now, but where did you grow up?
I was born in Kokomo, Indiana, and I grew up in Greentown, which is just outside of it. And so Midwest kid, grew up
Yeah.
in like 90s country, but then like right in the middle of like junior high, high school,
Hmm.
Napster hit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that kind of like opened up things. And
Made a
hopefully this
difference.
playlist like kind of reflects that a little, that
Yeah.
insanity.
So what is a song that reminds you of your childhood growing up in Indiana?
So I hopefully this is okay, but like I thought like it might be interesting on a few of these to have like the obvious answer because a lot of us grew up in like monoculture in the 90s, and then maybe
Sure.
one that was like a little less known or like a
Yeah.
little more niche. So for me,
Sure.
what reminds me of my like middle school years into high school is all of Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette, but
Of
specifically All I
course.
Really Want because it's how the album
Yeah.
started. The reason
Hmm.
is because, like, as a kid, especially growing up in like a religious home, I felt like having my Discman in that album. I was like sneaking, you know, hearing the
Yeah.
F word and Atlanta's talking about like going down on someone in the theater and stuff. And my parents
Right.
didn't know. They bought me, like, I forgot if they bought me the album or I bought it, but either way, I was allowed to buy the album,
Yeah.
and I was
I
like
mean, that
with
was
them.
Yeah, that was such a perfect sneaky record because you could play them like one of the ballads. You could play them ironic. Like this
Yeah,
is just a nice pop album, and then you could listen to, you could listen to
yeah.
You Ought to Know and
But
rock
that was
out.
also like a perfect opening track because it had that kind
Yeah.
of like swell in and everything. And then she had, I feel like that song specifically encompassed so much what Alanis was about, like kind of the
Mhm.
unhinged but controlled vocals and stuff. But then on the flip side of that, I forget if you grew up in a church home too
I
or
did
not.
not know.
Okay, so maybe
Um,
you're not as familiar with this, but like a big staple of my younger years was Jesus Freak by DC Talk.
okay, I know the song. Yeah, I
You know, it's like
remember.
okay,
Yeah. Oh
for
yeah.
us that was like we were allowed to listen to it around our parents, but also like it was so edgy and
Yeah.
badass. And I did a video about this on TikTok, and people thought I was making fun of it, including I think is it Troy Baker that was the voice on Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
I think he even commented something about me being too critical of it. No, no, I only talk about songs I like. Like
Yeah.
I was laughing at me thinking it was edgy. Yeah.
Right. But no, that I mean that was like a legitimate crossover hit. Like
Yeah.
there was like a weird time when like that song MXPX was kind of like breaking through the mainstream. It was kind of this
Mhm.
like weird Christian rock crossover time.
Yeah, I remember MXPX. Speaking of, the first time I think I heard them was their cover of Summer '69,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it's weird that maybe this is the '90s kid in me, but I knew MXPX's version before Bryan Adams. And so at the time in the youth group, we're like, oh, we thought it was something dirty.
Right. I'm still not 100% sure if it is or not. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of
I
one
had
of
to
those.
have
It could
known when you
be.
picked that year.
Yeah, it could have been or could not, but it's just a genuinely like nostalgic song. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
feel like those are the two sides of my middle school, high school years was like Atlantis and DC Talk.
Yeah. That's so funny. So were you like, I know some friends that grew up, in religious households where it's like they're sneaking all the alternative music, the stuff their parents don't want to hear. Was that you? You're sneaking music?
Kind of. So to my parents' credit, they weren't like super strict.
Yeah.
I couldn't be too, because I kind of, sorry, mom and dad, I kind of tricked them. The first CD they bought me for Christmas was Green Jelly or Jello.
Oh my gosh.
They had no idea. It was a cartoon on the front, right?
You're like, this is about the Three Little Pigs. This is
Yeah, exactly. So in that way, I was sneaking stuff, but it wasn't like they weren't policing every single thing. If anything, once I like really got hardcore into youth group, I think I kind of policed myself. I had that era where I burned my Tori Amos CDs, you know.
Ooh, yeah.
But then, I got in college and bought them again. Actually, it was funny. My
Oh, so you mean burn like set on fire? For a
Oh yeah,
second, I
yeah, yeah. Oh, bro, sorry,
burned
like break
copies
them.
like,
Oh yeah, yeah. No, like yeah, like destroyed them because I had like
oh,
hit
yeah, God. Yeah.
hit that point where you get into the choir the fire and true love waits and all this stuff. You're like Tori is taking me off the straight and narrow. And then I was like, oh, maybe I want to be back on the broad and wide
Yeah.
path.
So were your parents born in Korea and came to Indiana?
Yeah,
How did you end up
yes.
in Indiana of all
My parents
places?
haven't completely told me that whole story. I don't know exactly. They settled here just a couple years before I was born, or a year or two. I can't remember
Hmm.
some very shortly before I was born. And so we grew up, or I grew up as like the only Asian family in Greentown. There's like
Yeah.
population 3,000. Me and my brother. And so like I talk about this on some music I've done. There's a song I did called Handsome Nostalgia, where I know like that it's easy to try to paint an extreme like, oh, this was the worst experience you could ever experience, or like this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm like, it was both. Like
Yeah.
you can imagine
Okay.
it's not great as like the only minor or one of the only minorities in a small country town in the 90s. But also
Right.
like I genuinely have, good nostalgia and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's both. It was the most terrible and the best and everything in between.
Yeah. So what is a song that stands out to you from a concert?
Okay, so I know this is not the most hip answer, I guess, or like,
No, this,
niche
I want it to
answer,
be
but
hip. I want it to be you.
right,
So,
is that my favorite I have a lot of favorite concert experiences, but the one that always like sticks out in my mind is I had just graduated college and I saw Collective Soul at Kahunaville
um,
in Wilmington, Delaware. And RIP Kahunaville. Anybody that remembers that they had like a stage that was kind of like on a dock in the water,
mhm.
and the Collective Soul just got into The World I Know, and it started thunderstorming. And I loved
Oh
that
my,
song in high
yeah,
school. But then to like kind of my first years as an adult, out on my own, I was like, I'm gonna go to a concert by myself. There's no
yeah.
parents to pick me up if something goes wrong or whatever. And getting to see them perform that song during a thunderstorm,
That's
like
cool.
I was like, I'm living
Yeah.
a music video. And then they like segued into Better Now, which is like it was a big song, but not as well known as like World
Yeah.
I Know. But the power started cutting out
Oh
during that
no.
one, but the guys just kept like forging forward. And it
Yeah.
was, and then if anybody remembers that song, it has that chant part like the world's done keeping me down.
Oh yeah.
As the stuff was, instruments were cutting out, when everything, all the electricity cut out, the crowd kept the chant going. And I just remember like security trying to like force people to leave because we were in the middle of the water during a thunderstorm. They're like, you can't be out here. This is too much of a liability. And I left that concert being like, adulthood is amazing. This is my favorite thing ever. And
That's
um, there was such a great show. Like
yeah.
I highly recommend anybody go see Collective Soul live. I think they're touring this summer too. It's
Oh
so
nice.
good.
All right. What is a song that you associate with a specific activity? You could pick the activity.
So, one thing I haven't done in a while, but especially in like 2020 through like 2022 or three maybe, I had my smart home set up. When I wake up, lights go on and everything, and so my waking up playlist was the same for about 3 years. And
Mm-hmm.
I always associate waking up to "You Get What You Give" by New Radicals.
Yes. Love that
I love
song.
that song.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even the first song on the playlist. Like just little shout outs to a few lesser known songs. Like it started off with Light On by Maggie Rogers.
Oh,
And
I
then
love her. Yeah.
another song called "Never Call Me But Call Me" by Olivia Rubini.
Okay.
Olivia is an indie artist. She was just on The Voice. I've known Olivia since she was like a child that wasn't allowed to have an iPod by herself. And she put out this great record. Those two songs, not lyrically, but just vibe wise, and you know Light On. So it
Yeah.
has that kind of like, for me, it sounded like waking up, you know? So it was like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
gentle
That's
wake up.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
then by the time You Get What You Give is on, I'm like making coffee.
Ready to get
And
up. Yeah. I love it.
yeah, and if I'm having a, particularly good day, I'm like kind of like dancing with myself in the kitchen and stuff. So I'm like, okay, like we can do this today.
Right.
It's one of those songs that I remember hearing a lot in the 90s when I was a
Hmm.
kid, or is it yeah, like late 90s.
Yeah.
But never fully appreciated. And then the older I got, the better the song became to me, and now it's just like classic.
Same. Yeah. I feel like when it came out, I was like, oh, I kind of like this song. It wasn't
Hmm.
exactly like the kind of music I was listening to then, but I was like, oh, this is like a kind of good song. It feels like maybe one hit wondery.
Hmm.
But then, yeah, it's one of those songs as you get older, you're like, you know what? That was like an amazing song. That's like
Yeah,
maybe one
right.
of the songs of the 90s like that. I think it's weird because I think you would say that they're a one hit wonder maybe, but they're almost like kind of beyond that because it was almost a statement on the music industry. So it was like purposely a one hit, like it makes it better that it's a one hit wonder.
Yeah, I guess you probably know this better. The lore behind it is that that song came out was a hit, and then
Mhm.
Someday We'll Know was slated to be the next single, and the video was shot and everything, and then they were just like, no, no more of this. And then of course we heard Greg Alexander's music throughout the next couple
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah. He
Um,
stayed
and
busy for sure.
and once you know that it's him that wrote those songs, you can hear like these stylistic things from You Get What You Give in
Hmm.
the other
Yeah.
songs. But yeah,
For
like you
sure.
said, it was like a statement of like, yeah, I can make a hit and then never appear publicly,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like I'm doing this one song, show you I can make a hit, and then I'm out. What is a song that you associate with a milestone in your life?
So the t two sides of things, the most obvious answer is "You're Still the One" with Shania Twain, but
Really?
I have a
Okay.
footnote on that later for another kind of category.
Okay.
But mostly because so when I say obviously, but it's like generally, I did a video about this where, and I can't remember the original video I saw that I referenced. There was a woman that said like, listen to this song again, but to your younger self. And so,
Oh,
I remember sometime after the pandemic, or after lockdown specifically, most of us didn't know what we were gonna do. And for me personally, the years after lockdown were actually some of the best. I didn't know that at the time, but especially that second verse where it's like, "Ain't nothing better. We beat the odds together." And it's just like I get
yeah.
emotional thinking about that because like I was this Asian kid growing up like in an all white, like neighborhood,
Yeah.
and just didn't know odds were kind of stacked against me. But more specifically, and a little bit more niche of a song, a big milestone for me was "I'm Still Here" by John Resnick for the Treasure Planet soundtrack.
Okay. The guy
I don't
from
know if
Goo
you,
Goo Dolls?
yeah.
Okay.
I thought it
I
was
don't
weird
know
that
the
because
song.
I always knew him as Johnny Resnick, but then he was credited
Yeah.
as John on this. I don't know if that was a purposeful decision.
He's
Y- y-
grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you're not familiar with the song?
I don't know the song, no.
So I think it's a great song. He wrote both songs on that soundtrack. The second one was covered by BB Mac on there.
Hmm.
But mainly because once again, a couple years after lockdown, I'm not trying to like call anybody specific out, but in general, there was like someone that I was working with, and we had been going to the specific. I'll just say we were going to NAMM, is a big music convention,
Oh yeah.
for
Yeah.
years, like close to a decade, and if anybody that's gone to one of those knows like any those scenes, like you kind of just build your reputation over the long term, and not even by trying, just by like my friend Mari used to say, like, show up, don't be an asshole, and just
Yeah.
trying to make
Good,
friends and
good
stuff. And
advice.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not really a good networker. I just figure I'm
Hmm.
gonna be a starving musician and broke. I want to have cool friends at least. So
Yeah.
I remember we were going to that, and I guess the somebody I was going to these events with a lot was more of the mindset of like I'm going in as transactionally, like I
Hmm.
want to
Okay.
get something out of it, and then
Yeah.
they kind of gave up on it, and they were like, "Rod, this is not going anywhere," blah blah. And I remember a couple years after lockdown, I was at NAMM, and an immense amount of like material success happened that year,
Hmm.
and I was so fulfilled, both like professionally, emotionally. and everything. And I went back, I got back into my rental car, which was even odder because it wasn't set to anything that I was playing, and I'm
Mm,
still here. Started playing, and I
interesting.
knew the song really well, and I loved the
Yeah.
sentiment. Was just it's kind of obvious in the title. It's like, but I'm still here, and I was like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, I'm still here, you know, like, and I
Yeah.
got so emotional. I cried a little bit in the car before going back home, and then I texted a couple friends. I was like, this is not gonna make any sense right now, but like I heard this song, and we'll talk about it. And so I'll never forget. That was, I don't know, a couple years ago.
Yeah. I
Or as
love
the
that.
most recent milestone, I was like, okay, yeah, this worked out both like personally and professionally. And then this perfect soundtrack came up, and I was like, wow, that's
That's
amazing. You know?
I went to Nam years ago, not in any kind of music capacity, but because I used to be a cab driver in Orange County.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
during the NAMM convention in Anaheim, there were a lot of people coming in my cab at the convention. And
Yeah.
one of my passengers was like, I have some extra like passes if you want to go. And I was like, yeah, for sure.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was really cool. I saw Stevie Wonder. Like he was just kind of walking through the room, but I was in the same room with Stevie Wonder. So it was
So that's funny.
well,
Stevie Wonder on the showroom floor is kind of like a tradition or like a rite
yeah,
of passage
I've heard that.
because
Yeah. It
and I guess if you were cab driving, that was probably like a while back, right?
was a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So
20,
like it's
20 years
it's
ago.
fun to hear that he was still doing that even back then because a couple friends went for the first time this last year, and I'm a little bit jaded. Like I still appreciate the convention, but I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, it's the same thing every year. And one of
Sure.
my friends who was going for the first time was like, man, I want to try to like time it out to meet Stevie Wonder or see Stevie Wonder. I was like, my dude, like if you spend an
Yeah.
hour on the floor, you'll run into him, and he did. He ran into him like four times.
Oh,
Stevie's just a gearhead. He loves like playing
yeah,
instruments and trying out new stuff. And he has his whole entourage because he's Stevie Wonder. He can't be by himself on the floor.
of course. Yeah. That's funny that he has a bit like that because I did this really long Grammy series for YouTube and for my Substack where I reviewed every single Grammys ever, and I
Mhm.
watched a lot of them, like as many as I could. They were on YouTube, and Stevie Wonder was giving away Album of the Year for a lot of years. Like he's one of
Mhm.
the go-to Album of the Year presenters, and he would almost always do a bit where he would pretend to read the card
Oh.
year after year. He'd be like, "Let me read that," and then like laugh, like, "Just kidding, I can't read." Or they would print it for him in Braille so he could like read in
Yeah,
Braille,
yeah.
pretend to read. I was like, "Man, he's doing this bit every year. It works every time." So he's just like,
It's so
stick with
funny.
the joke that works. Yeah,
What's funny is of all the places I haven't seen Stevie Wonder is the Grammys because I get some people know I'm part of the Recording Academy, so I vote every year.
yeah.
And I sometimes I go to the award show, and somehow I've always missed when he is doing something there.
Oh, really? Yeah, he was just on the last one, wasn't he? Doing Quincy Jones tribute.
Yeah, so I wasn't there in person for the
Meaning,
last. Well, I was
mm,
at everything else. People like the Grammys are like a week long event.
yeah,
That award show is like the last 6 hours. So I was at everything else up until that because I was just
yeah.
spent.
All right, so you talked a little bit about getting emotional. Let's go with what is a song besides that one that gets you emotional?
So the this was another one of those two-sided things. The one that most people know is Good Riddance by Green Day.
Okay.
I'll
One of
touch
your
back
biggest
on that.
videos on TikTok, right?
Yeah, it is the
Yeah.
biggest one, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of happy about that. And then we'll come back to that. The lesser known one is a song called No Tomorrow Just Tonight by the Crash Motive.
Oh, okay.
The Crash Motive is a band I gig with a little bit in Delaware. They were signed to Wind Up Records for a bit. They're one of those industry stories that it might be interesting for you to look into for one of your things because like they're like one of those like kind of what people talk about horror stories about getting signed because they were a
Oh,
great
yeah.
band. Derek
Yeah.
Furman, the lead singer of that band, went on to like write and produce a lot of records for like Goo Goo Dolls and Fight for Fighting and OAR, and he actually wrote Gone 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 with Philip
Oh,
Phillips
okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But this song, it gets me emotional because I remember that coming out in like the late 2000s, early 2000s, yeah, late 2000s. And
Mm.
I was, once again, I graduated college in 2005. So these like first few years, I'm just like kind of figuring out life and stuff. And I remember them performing it at a venue we used to gig at a lot called the Bottle and Cork. And um, there's the second verse that says like, "Was it ever obvious to you that I gave up?
Mm.
I couldn't face the part of me I knew was losing touch till I lost my faith in the little things." And it's like, oh, it just hits, and I just wish
Yeah.
it has a decent following. I just wish like that should, in my eyes, that should have been just been like a global. It's
Yeah.
such a good song, and it's that early aughts like pop rock, with like the big bombastic, loud like Greg Wattenberg sound and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but with Good Riddance, which I'm sure a lot more people, especially our age, relate to. I think it's just it has hit so many like milestones in milestones, but also like touch points in my life. Because for us, obviously, it was like the graduation song for like a decade,
Sure.
right? Ever
Yeah.
since it came out. So I remember hearing it then, and I liked it, but I think it was a little bit better than You Get What You Give in the sense that I liked it immediately, but then like
Yeah.
it only like elevated from there because then we hear it at funerals
Hmm.
and stuff and different lifelong things, and this is kind of silly,
Yeah.
but
Last
for
episode of Seinfeld.
yeah,
I'll
right.
never
And
forget that.
the most recent thing, and I don't remember how much you were doing at the quote unquote end of TikTok earlier this year. Uh, but I thought, like you mentioned, since it was my biggest video, when
Yeah.
we all thought that TikTok was going away forever and whatever that day in January, I
Yeah.
remember thinking like,
I
how
remember.
poetic is it? I could do my final video as a follow-up to that song,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it goes out, and I just remember like, it was this beautiful thing because like TikTok has been it become my biggest platform,
Yeah.
and but also I've been in like social media and YouTube, over a decade. So this is like not the first platform that I've been part of that went away, but
Yeah.
it was the first time we kind of got a heads up and we all could kind of say goodbye together. And
Yeah.
so I just remember like making that video, posting it, going out with drinks with friends in town that were on TikTok, and we were all like, pouring one last one out. And it's like it was like another touch point of that song
Yeah.
um having that like moving on to the next era of life and obviously that got undone 12 hours later but the song itself, so now even like if it just comes up randomly on a playlist or the radio or something where I'm at, like I feel myself like involuntarily getting emotional
Mm.
just hearing the initial like guitar arpeggio
Yeah.
and I don't know Billy Joe like kind of not accidentally, he wrote it on purpose, but like kind of just accidentally wrote a universal song. Like,
Right. Yeah.
famously, I'm sure you've talked about at some point, he wrote this about like a breakup or something,
Yeah.
but the lyrics just fell in a way where it's really about any moving on, era of life. And so even
Yeah.
now I'm thinking about like, wow, what a perfect song.
I mean, I think accidentally is a good way to put it because, like, I mean, I think you're always trying to write something that's going to
Hmm.
connect with so many people that way, but to actually have it happen, I think is next. I'm sure he wrote a million other songs that he thought were going to be, that impactful, and they just weren't. And then that
Yeah.
one, for whatever reason, like connects. You kind of hinted at some lyrics that you liked, but what's a song that features some of your favorite lyrics?
Oh yeah, so yeah, I already talked about No Tomorrow Just Tonight, those lyrics that I liked, and then Shania Twain's You're Still the One lyrics. So this one is definitely a little bit more niche, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with a singer named Kina. She at one
No.
point was in Brownstone, not an original member, but in the middle. I don't know if this is in relation to that, but at some point she left Brownstone, and then in her solo album, she released a song called Girl from the Gutter.
Okay.
And I love me a good petty anthem. So me and my friends always say like, we're never gonna ask for petty or, wish the worst on someone. But if the universe delivers something poetically,
Yeah,
justified, who am I
sure.
to refuse a gift? And so the whole song, the verses kind of go through like, you stabbed me in the back, you didn't believe in me, you thought, like a lot of universal feelings. I feel like a lot of us with dreams
Yeah.
have. But then this chorus, it's a big loud pop rock song. She has fantastic vocals on it. But the chorus says, "I hope your hell is filled with magazines, and on every page you see a big picture of me, and
Oh, yes.
and every under every picture the caption should read, 'Not bad for a girl from the gutter like me.'" And I'm like, "Yes,
Ooh,
yes,
that's
girl!" Like,
good. Yeah.
highly recommend that song. That whole album is so good, and I don't know. Whenever uh, I hit like a milestone or accomplish something that someone said I couldn't do, I feel like I always hear that like I'm the
Yeah.
girl in that that song.
All right, so you have pretty eclectic musical taste. What do you think is a song that people would be surprised that you like?
Okay, so this is another like kind of two-sided thing. If only have known me now and not in my childhood in Greentown, Indiana, uh, you'd probably be surprised that like I really love 90s country. So like She's in Love with the Boy by Trisha Yearwood, I feel
Mm,
like it's just I don't know. It's like an American standard to me.
Yeah,
It's like when I think of I don't know, like the Blueprint country almost pop song or 90s
yeah.
country. She's in love with the boy. It has that bop and everything. I
Oh
still
yeah,
love that song to this day. But then if you knew me in high school, um, and not well, yeah, if you just knew me like when we were kids, I kind of had to hide that like I really love stuff outside of pop
right.
music and 90s country. So like one of my favorite songs when I was younger was Missing You by Brandy, Tamia, Shaka Khan, and
Oh
Gladys
yeah,
Knight from the
yeah.
was the Set It Off soundtrack. Actually, I forgot to grab it. I have the cassette single up here, but specifically the one with the acapella intro.
Okay,
I mean, both versions are great, but
yeah,
man, I love that was like the girl group that never completely was, because
yeah,
these are four solo artists, and but all of them brought the perfect. Like, no one overpowered each other,
yeah.
and it's such a memorable melody. And I don't know, yeah, I love it still to this day. Yeah, so I just mentioned this. I love cassette. Everybody knows I love cassette tapes. I got it tattooed on my chest
Oh wow,
here. But so I collect singles, and luckily since I live in LA, Amoeba Music's here, so I remember getting this on my
yeah,
birthday once. Yeah,
nice.
so the single "Missing You," that's the acapella version. I
Did
have
you
a
grow
whole
up? Did you
thing.
grow up on cassettes? Because you're a couple years younger than me. Did you grow up with cassettes or only CDs?
Oh, I had plenty of cassettes. Yeah.
Yeah, I started
Although
with cassettes and then transitioned to CDs when I got older.
I will say, my music collecting started with CDs. My very first CD I bought for myself was One of Us single by Joan Osborne. So it started there, but you I think aren't we about the same age?
Well, maybe we are. I was born in
Yeah,
'82.
same. Yeah. I was gonna say
Oh,
because I
oh,
remember seeing in your username. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
All
So,
right. You just look a
uh,
lot better than me, I assume.
it's you made me remember this too because did wait you grew up in California?
Yeah, in
Okay,
Anaheim.
so
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't as the same situation, but at least in Indiana, like there was this like transition period. So like I remember there was a couple criteria. Like most of the time you'd buy a CD, but at that time CDs were like twice the price of cassettes.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes and buy a cassette when you like weren't fully committing to the whole to whole album. But also at
Sure.
the same time, sometimes you buy a cassette to commit to a whole album because it was harder to get to the song you liked or
Yeah.
something. So it was kind of a mix, but the singles were a big thing for a while for me because the maxi CDs, I think Walmart started carrying them a little bit later in my area. But before then, like it was a couple bucks to get like the
Yeah.
Macarena on single. Um, so I loved those for a while. I caught the very tail end of 8 tracks for my parents.
Okay. I
But
never.
I never bought those on my own.
Yeah. No, me neither. I
Um,
The first cassette I ever bought with my own money was a cassette single, but it was an accident. I was I was trying to buy Nirvana's Nevermind, and
okay.
I had, I don't know, like $10 of allowance money saved up, and I found the cassette of it, and it was way cheaper. So I
Yeah.
bought what I thought was Nevermind, and so I was maybe like 10 or 11. It was actually a copy of the Weird Al
Oh
single
no.
"Smells Like Nirvana." So it was just that on the A side, and on the B side, a song called "The Waffle King." So
Oh
I didn't
no.
get Nevermind. I just had this Weird Al song, but I loved it. I didn't
Oh, okay,
regret it.
good.
I was like, you know what? This maybe is more my speed at like 11. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that song. So
Yeah, so
I later got Nevermind, but
Nirvana's a little dark for 10, 11-year-old, right?
I mean, I loved them. They were like my first
Yeah.
favorite band. But
You were way hipper with music because like I just missed Nirvana like because I think
yeah,
I didn't catch on until the Zeitgeist had hit after Kurt,
mm,
passed away.
yeah,
Um, but yeah. So, but yeah, that's something that I think like younger generations don't quite, old man yelling at cloud, don't fully appreciate. Like when we were kids, if we bought the wrong album, we couldn't
yeah.
return
That's
it
it. No, yeah, that's it.
because of copyright stuff, right?
But sometimes it ended up being a good thing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I still love Weird Al to this day. I'm gonna see him this summer. So
I'm still, people might have said this in my comments, and I agree with it. Like, Weird Al could probably be the guy that unifies a Super Bowl halftime show that everyone would love.
yes. Oh,
He
I
just
would
needs to
love
do
that.
it.
Yeah. All right. What is a song? So speaking of tapes, did you make a lot of like mixtapes for people? Mix CDs? Is that a thing you were into?
So yeah, when I was doing mixed tapes, I was young enough that I was just basically doing it for myself. And I did all
Yeah.
the classic things. I had like the CD stereo where I was recording songs off CDs to make my mixtape,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then radio stuff, like because there was songs that like, oh, I don't know if I like this artist yet, so I was like waiting for the radio to play to record. But I made mixed CDs definitely for many a crush and sometimes friends and stuff.
So,
I
do
think
you have a song that stands out that you introduced somebody to?
yeah, I don't know if I necessarily introduced them to it. I remember making a not zero amount of mixed CDs that had "I Can Love You Like That" by All for One on it because oh man, this
That's
small
it. Yeah,
teammate. I mean, it's
that's a
still one of
great
my
one.
favorite songs, but
Yeah.
like probably laying it on a little thick as a teenager or even college.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah.
that's a classic. Although I was one of those kids who preferred "I Can Love You Like That" over "I Swear," so that's my
Oh,
little
really? Okay.
little thing. But both were great songs.
Yeah.
Then a little bit later in life, but still in the CD era, there's a song called "All This Time" by One Republic.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Another one.
oh, you know the song? Okay, cool. I'm so happy. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I might have actually like kind of driven people away with that song. Because sometimes I play it and either the response is like, wow, this is really depressing, or the sentiment was not shared.
Yeah.
But for me, it was I love the sentiment of like kind of I don't know, trying to undo regrets. Like
Yeah.
now that I have the second chance, I'm gonna make this work with us. I specifically that also crossed the era of like iTunes downloads.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
I made mixtapes, mix CDs with it, but I remember even like buying, you know how you get gift songs on iTunes, other
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
I remember one of the last songs I gifted to a girl was All This Time by One Republic. She never spoke to me again,
Yes.
so
Oh,
it
but that's great. Yeah.
yeah, you can type
People,
a little message, it's like this is about us. And she's like, oh,
young people are gonna have no idea what we're talking about. You
right.
gifted a song on iTunes? What?
That's
That's
so wild too, because like I think that's the thing I can't come to grips with. I can accept like tapes and maybe CDs kind of be out of fashion, but like
right.
in my mind, iTunes is still new. It's
Right.
a
Yeah.
still new
That's modern
concept,
technology. Yeah.
right?
So what's the flip? What's a song that somebody put on a mix for you that they introduced you to?
Oh, so it wasn't on a mix, but my best friends in high school were Corey and Jeb. Shout out you guys, but they were older than me. We worked together at Walmart, and they took me out to see the Jim Carrey movie about Andy Kaufman.
Oh, Man
And
on the Moon. Yeah.
yeah, so I knew about REM, but they introduced me to the song Man on the Moon, but also Great Beyond.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think at the time, it's not that I wouldn't like that kind of music, but I don't think anybody besides my best friends would know that I would love that kind of
Yeah.
song.
hmm
And so even now, like when I'm feeling really nostalgic, I'll like, on a like kind of warm summer night, go driving in the back roads of Los Angeles with Man on the Moon blasting, and
Yeah.
it takes me back to, like late 90s, early like 2000.
All right. Last one. What is the most recent song that you've fallen in love with?
So another two-sided thing. So something that's pretty well known is Two Most Wanted by Beyonce and Miley Cyrus.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my God, I cannot count the number of times I listened to that song. But also the whole Cowboy Carter album. And full disclosure, I voted for that album and that song for all the Grammy categories I could. Even if you don't like the music, it's the best album. Like no,
Yeah.
not very many artists are making albums. Like, and Beyonce made
Sure.
an album, like concept album. And that song, and it has like a lot of the greats on it, right? Like it's kind of outlining, was it Landslide musically?
Hmm.
And I think they credit some interpolation there, but like Ryan Tedder's a co-writer on it. But it's it was so surprising how well Miley and Beyonce's vocals fit together.
Yeah.
But now that I've heard it, I can't like unhear how perfect it is. But I love this kind of like Thelma and Louise like vibe they
Sure. Yeah.
give with the song, and it's another song that kind of gets me emotional. Like I've never lived through that, but maybe I'm in my 40s now, so maybe hearing that like we're both still young, but someday we won't be. I'm like, oh, it's true, girls, run off together, you know. Um, but on like a more indie side, there's an artist named Starletta that I kind of randomly came across. Well, not randomly. I was doing a collaboration with Edwin McCain, another great 90s
Yeah.
songwriter. He had
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
Be, and I could not ask for more. And we were reacting to covers of I'll Be on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
we came across this artist named Starletta that had covered I'll Be and did a great version. Actually changed Edwin's mind about belly keyboard synths.
Hmm.
Because Edwin said he hated those kind of sounds, but this guy played it with that and loved, and Edwin loved it. So I started digging into Starletta's catalog, and he has this collaboration with the singer I'm not familiar with named Glimmers, and they have a song
Okay.
called Different Music. I don't know how to describe it. He has this cross of like kind of like neon cowboy with like electronic, but like current pop. And he's got a
Cool.
voice that I'm almost upset with because I like how good he sounds
Yeah.
vocally, but his whole production and songwriting is great. But the song, it makes me feel joyful. So where the other songs are emotional, like, kind of like bittersweet nostalgic, this one is it I don't want to interpret the song for him, but for me, it comes across as like that moment when you meet someone that like kind of changes your life and you're like, "Oh, okay, like things are good now." Because it the verses are kind of like mellow, borderline ballad. And then when he drops into the chorus, it has these like cool like keyboard stabs, and he's like, When you're with me, I hear different music." And I was like, I love that sentiment. It's like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
kind of change the soundtrack of my life. So those are the two songs that are like fairly recent within the last couple of years that I just like constant rotation. Any playlist that I have has
Yeah.
those songs on it, no matter the context.
Rod, thank you so much for building a playlist of your life with me.
Oh, thanks for
What do
having
you
me.
have to promote right now? What do you have going on?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Like you mentioned, I'm a songwriter here in LA. So like I'm doing a lot of stuff that people will probably have seen, but I'm not it's not necessarily like my name bannering off it.
Yeah.
But like if you want to follow me, the easiest way to keep up with whatever I'm doing lately is rodkim.com, but also on YouTube. Uh, Hopefully I've committed and I'm doing my long form stuff on YouTube. So far, there's a bunch of podcasts. I guess that's the thing I should promote. Millennials Sleepover. I'm bad at this. Millennial Sleepover is my podcast. I so far have interviewed like All American Rejects, Hinder, Hootie and the Blowfish, Edwin McCain, Roses from the Chainsmokers song, and then on TikTok is where you can see me,
Yeah.
taking edibles and laying down on this couch and talking about 90s and 2000s music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm everywhere, so just that on in Instagram, but I don't know, Rod Kim Rocks or Rod Kim on most platforms.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
You've heard the stories, now hear the songs. Go to wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and you can listen to today's guest's personalized playlist if you search for The Guest List with Patrick Hicks.